Well, Brian, that I think was one of the most entertaining scoreless draws I've commentated on myself. It certainly had a bit of everything bar the goals.
Yeah, it was a very, very good game, Stephen. Obviously, from the early stages, Manchester United on top, then the sending off of Casemiro has an influence on the game, how each team reacts. Southampton, you would have expected them to have more of the game than with 11v10, and they had, but they rarely look like scoring, except when Walker-Peters got on the ball down the right-hand side. As a fullback, I thought he played very well. They didn't have any real threat. Shea Adams up front rarely threatened. Alcaraz didn't do an awful lot either. And even the substitutions didn't make a great difference to them. Manchester United were more of a threat. The crowd were absolutely raucous in Old Trafford today and tried to push their team across the line. And you know, obviously from our point of view, it was good to see Gavin Bazunu having such a good game, and he had to keep Manchester United out because there's several good opportunities, but it was a good game. And I think at the end of it, Manchester United manager will feel, well, the point wasn't bad given we were playing for about an hour with 10 men. The Southampton manager will feel, well, it's not a bad point away to Manchester United given we're bottom of the table. They've not won too many matches this season. Only 3 teams have got points at Old Trafford this season, and now they get a point, so they're saying, well, that's okay as well. So, you know, both managers will end up being not too upset about the final result, given that both would have reasons to feel they could have won the game.
We'll come back to Bazunu towards the end, but just to ask you about the United performance. But first of all, a performance that really was changed in the first half with that Casemiro red card. There has been a bit of talk on social media since that, and it would be, of course, United supporters feeling that he got the ball, that he shouldn't have been sent off. What was your view on the red card, Brian?
I respect Anthony Taylor as an excellent referee, and I think he got it right on the second when he had the I'd say the bonus of being able to have a look at the screen. Often, you know, referees make judgments on what they see. The first call, my first call was I think he got the ball and he did okay. But once I saw it, you know, a couple of times again, I felt that he went high on the ball and he was probably over aggressive. And his foot, whether it slipped off the top of the ball, but if that element of over aggression is in it, it causes it to come off the top of the ball. It certainly made contact with Alcaraz's shin at that stage, so I felt the referee was in his rights to change his mind and upgrade the card from yellow to red. That was my feeling.
He made the change then, bringing Scott McTominay in. McTominay did pretty well there in that kind of defensive midfield role. The team as a whole, though, you know, you're looking at United, and I know they got that win against Betis, but from a Premier League perspective, they've come in off the back of that 7-0 win against Anfield.
7-0 loss.
Or 7-0, sorry, defeat at Anfield against Liverpool. And their backs are against the wall now with 10 men. Would you take a lot from that performance as Eric Ten Hag, because your team has shown a bit of character to really dig out that result?
Well, look, you know, it was an important game during the week for them. They've had a tight run of results with, you know, the Leicester, Barcelona, Newcastle Cup final, win the Cup final, Barcelona again, they win the second leg, coming from behind, and then the disaster against Liverpool last week, 7-0. They did well during the week against Betis, winning 4-1, which means that they should be well capable of holding on to a 3-goal advantage away to Betis during the week. So it's not been a bad week. I think the manager will feel certain disappointment about not being able to get the win. But you know, it's big. It's a big pitch to be playing with 10 against 11, even with the crowd behind them. So overall, I think they'll not be too upset with that result.
Bruno Fernandes gave the ball away a lot today. Has his head been affected by what's gone on over the last week? Not just the game at Anfield, but just some of the criticism that there's been of his performance as a captain.
Well, he was outstanding on Thursday night. He got a good goal, but he played very well in the match. So, you know, I don't know whether he's been affected. Maybe he's trying to act the captain even more than the way he was before. I saw him running around after the referee today claiming a penalty in the first half, which wasn't a penalty. It was a clean tackle by Walker-Peters. One of 3 big tackles he made in the penalty area. 2 where Manchester United were looking for penalties. Neither of them were fouls. But yeah, he gave the ball away a bit today. He had a lot of running to do in that midfield area. Like at one stage when Casemiro went off, he was the only one in the middle of the pitch, Manchester United. Then he got McTominay in to help him, but he was trying to get up to make a forward front player along with Rashford and the 2 wide men, Anthony and Sancho, when they were on, Garnacho and Pellistri when they came on. He was trying to get up there, so it was a lot of pitch to cover when you're short that man in midfield. And you know, that man was Casemiro. They were short. They didn't start Fred. Eventually Fred gets on late in the game, so I wouldn't be overcritical of him today. I think there was loose passes, but there was lots of players made loose passes. Southampton, the fresher team. United we've seen it before with clubs and teams trying to cope with the Thursday night football, Sunday football. It's not easy to do it, there's no doubt about it.
They're now just 2 points clear of Tottenham, because Tottenham had that win against Nottingham Forest yesterday. You know, there was talk perhaps of a little bit of talk of a title race with United being involved a few weeks ago, but they've dropped off a bit now, 11 points off City, so that looks like that's kind of gone out the window. Are they going to be under a bit of pressure from behind now with Tottenham and perhaps Liverpool? We know Liverpool had a poor result against Bournemouth, but we know they're going to come back at some stage. So do United have to kind of look in the rearview mirror now?
Of course, they're looking ahead, which you said the gap is probably too big, and the gap is not just on one team, it's on 2 teams that are well ahead of them now. So I don't think they'll catch either of them. I think it's going to be whether they can be 3rd or 4th. I think they've got the squad that's good enough. The Casemiro is going to be a big loss now. Missing 4 league games is big for them because he's been a key player for them. You can say McTominay is his replacement. He's not a natural fit in the style of Casemiro. I mean, McTominay's been there around the team for the last few seasons. He's improved as the seasons have gone along. It'll be probably back to that combination of him, Fred and Bruno. That hasn't been good enough in recent years to have them at the level they've been at this season. The difference he's made. Equally, you saw today Weghorst. I think he's played every match since he signed. I'd say that's probably about 15 or 16 matches in a row he's played, be it that there's only 8 league games in it. And we saw his deficiencies in the game today. They took him off when Casemiro got put off to get another midfield player on. So they still have problems. They're going to have to be looking behind them, yeah. But Spurs aren't in great form. Newcastle not in great form. Liverpool still very mixed form, even if they beat them 7-0 last week. So it's in their own hands. I think to finish anywhere in the top 4 this season, and if they could win another cup competition, which they're quite capable of, either the Europa League or the FA Cup itself, would be a very, very, very good season for Manchester United.
Absolutely. Just to finish then with Southampton, because they're, after getting a really important point, that's 7 out of 12 points now from their new manager Ruben Selles, who was given the job permanently until the end of the season after the sacking of Nathan Jones. He's got no top flight experience managing whatsoever. He's been a coach throughout his whole career. This has been a pretty good return for his first 4 matches as a Premier League manager. Looking at the profile of his squad, there's a lot of young players in there, a lot of new signings. If they're going to save themselves from relegation, it would be a bit of a miracle, really, wouldn't it?
From the position where he came in, where it looked fairly poor after Nathan Jones's time, Hassan Newtel rather had done a good job in recent years, but this season started off badly. He was under pressure. Nathan Jones 8 games, he got 1 win, and now he's come in and got 7 points from difficult enough group of games. Win at Chelsea, very good win over Leicester, lost to Leeds. Badly beaten in the cup by Grimsby. That was a bad result. Grimsby Division 4. But a good point today, so I think that gives them hope. I think they have a lot of home games to go. I think that's going to be the key to it. I think the balance of their home games now will be 7 home, 5 away for the rest of the season. And if they can get that support, I mean, normally the home support would get away, be really behind the team when it's backs to wall stuff and the threat of relegation is there. You see potential today, still problems up front. Didn't look like scoring today, apart from those efforts from Walker-Peters coming in on the right hand side. There wasn't much threat. But, you know, he's obviously brought new enthusiasm. They've signed some new young players, don't know the Premier League very well. He's got a lot of experienced fellas on the bench. Who knows? He'll have done a fine job if he saves them.
And just to finish down, Gavin Bazunu, their goalkeeper, pulled off a magnificent save from that Bruno Fernandes shot in the second half. He had a really good game overall. He came into this match maybe suffering a crisis of confidence over the last stretch of a few months. A player really who hasn't had much of that, kind of negative times during his career, his very young career, of course, playing for Shamrock Rovers and Portsmouth and Rochdale. He was Player of the Year for Portsmouth that season. But when you look at the quality of a player, you're looking at how he responds to bad patches in his career. And are you looking at Bazunu now thinking he's responded really well here and perhaps giving the Republic of Ireland boss Stephen Kenny a bit of hope now?
I think that the goal he conceded against Leeds, he got a bit of criticism for. It was a vital goal in the match, but in fact there was a bit of a deflection, if I remember correctly, on the shot just before it went over him on the goal line, and it would have been very difficult for him to do anything better than he did. Against Leicester, he made a bad mistake with his distribution that I think gave Leicester a big chance. He played the kick out straight to Maddison. They got away with it, but other than that, there hasn't been huge criticism of him, and I think today I thought he had an outstanding game today. His distribution was fine, as it usually is when he plays for Ireland. We've seen that, always very controlled, composed, and makes the right choice in general. His decision making is good, but ultimately what you want from your goalkeeper is someone who makes saves on the goal line. There won't be much criticism of De Gea about his distribution today. It was about the great save he made from the header from Walcott in the first half. So I thought it was a very encouraging performance by Bazunu today, and I've no doubt that he'll be Stephen Kenny's number one choice for the match with France, whether he plays against Latvia or not.
Yeah, and quickly tied in with that, because we found out during the week Caoimhín Keller leaving Liverpool at the end of the season. I would imagine you think that's a good move from him, is it?
Well, I didn't see that, but if that's the case, I think he needs to go and play. He's a very, very highly rated goalkeeper, but unfortunately for him, they've got another goalkeeper who is one of the world's best goalkeepers, and he is getting to an age where he's got to go and play now on a regular basis to satisfy his own professional ambition. So if that is the case, I don't think that Liverpool manager, staff or supporters would have any great problem with that. They've still got a great goalkeeper, and they just need to get a backup goalkeeper to him. Keller has shown his ability. There was they've had other goalkeepers there who've got very little time on the pitch because of how outstanding Alisson has been. Keller has got a good go in those cup competitions, won some medals, and now I'm sure there'll be plenty of clubs that want to take him for the future seasons if he's available.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.